The third question has to do with weighting. I teach everything from course directors, instructors, dive masters, down through, all the way down through open water. And I even do some scuba, things along those lines. And I also do scability for adaptive divers or handicapped divers, whatever your definition is. And I want to read this question to you. And it says, proper weighting initial descent question. I find to be neutrally buoyant from about 20 feet on down to 100 feet, and to be neutrally buoyant at my safety stop with about 600 psi. Now, he didn't indicate on here whether he's using aluminum tank or steel tank, that sort of thing. But his next comment was, I need to start the dive with about 2 pounds underweighted and therefore have to fin down on initial descent for the first 25 feet or so. If I wear just a pound or two, never wear odd numbers in your weights. It's either 2, 4, 6, 8. It's not 1, 3, 5, 7. It's not that. Always equal numbers. If I wear just a pound or two, I can descend just by emptying my BC, but then tend to be slightly overweighted at depth and at safety stop. This is true whether I'm wearing a 3 or a 7. He went on to say, my question is this okay and maybe preferable to just always finning down at the beginning of the dive like the old Cousteau days before BCs, which I happen to remember? Or is it bad form in my era? And am I not relaxing enough or using breathing right on my initial descent? Should I put on more weight? And am I just compensating at depth by putting extra air, gas, in my BC? Or should I embrace inverting and finning down at the beginning of a dive? And then yesterday I had a gentleman come in to do a private, some agencies call it peak performance buoyancy. Some agencies call it something else. But he came in, he was a relatively experienced diver, little rusty, had bought a new Hydros Pro and wanted some help working to kind of get him straightened out, because he lives here, but he has a vacation spot in Key West. And he was going to be down there for the next 2 or 3. And he really wanted to get back into diving. And he had many of these issues right here. So that's why I wanted to add this on here. So I'll say this. I see lots of folks come in here. We have our own indoor heated pool here. And we have a lot of folks year round come in. They buy equipment. They want to get a feel for it. They want personal training, and we're happy to accommodate them. We see a lot of them that come in and they are so used to diving overweighted that it's absolutely incredible. I've seen them come in, they've got a t-shirt, swimsuit, BC, regular, the rest of it, aluminum tank. And when I'm started to put in 26 pounds of lead, I was like, oh my gosh, stop. I've seen it often that some instructors out there and have a tendency to want to overweight their students and teach their students skills, especially the beginning skills like reg recovery and reg clearing and mask clearing and stuff like that. And the students are on their knees, which I don't do. All of my students are in a neutral buoyancy position. It's just incredible how many of them overweight their students to make sure that the students, I call it in the people position. Because remember, underwater folks, we're fish, we're not people. And if you get conditioned to stand up to clear a mask or to get your reg. We don't dive like that. So please, instructors and dive masters and divers, don't practice your skills in an upright position. I've got a couple of videos. Sorry, I'm patronizing here, but I'll put one up here. It's called Dive Like a Fish, Think Like a Fish. There's actual video in that underwater video of how some people are trained. And if they're overweighted, they get conditioned to be overweighted. And it's more work for an instructor to properly weight a student right from the get-go. Yeah, the student does flop around a bit more because under there we don't have friction, we don't have gravity when we're neutrally buoyant, and we're not used to it as people, and we're still thinking like a people instead of starting to relax and start mentally thinking about where we are and what we're doing. So it's more work to train a new diver to have better control with proper weighting. And so that's what I did this weekend, and it worked wonderfully. And the gentleman that I worked with yesterday, he said he wore 21 pounds of lead with a 3 mil suit, aluminum tank, and salt water. 21 pounds of lead. Number one, 21 should tell you something. And so got him in the water, got him perfected. And number one, to answer this question, and you folks out there, when you descend, completely deflate the BCD. Don't leave air in it. All you're doing is dragging down a bubble. And of course, you're going to have more lead in the BC. So completely deflate. And you notice I keep doing this. It's because I am a fan of the right shoulder dump, not the inflator deflator that people, when they get underwater, and now they're bending it like this, they're not going to get all the air out. And people don't practice the fact that when you're pulling a right shoulder dump, don't do this because the air is going to go over there. Pull, raise, pull, raise, pull, raise. It's just like if you go feet up, head down, you can't get any air out of here. You got to reach back and pull the butt dump. But at the end of the day, I had him in the pool and he was doing incredible. He had 6 pounds of lead in. 6 pounds of lead. So, and of course, we want to make sure, you see, there's all of these different techniques out there. And when you hear somebody say, oh, you got to have 10% of your body weight, not necessarily true. Depends on what your body's made out of. So perfect your buoyancy. Do a little extra training. Do the peak performance buoyancy or some kind of total buoyancy control. Something that you're going to be able to. And don't just listen to somebody say, oh, yeah, because again, on some of these tours, it's much easier for the dive master or somebody, dive leader or whoever, to put a bunch of lead on you to get you down, because then they don't have to fight with it. But you have to be careful during your equalization and such. And of course, while you're down there, you're going to be inflating and deflating, which means your dive time is going to be less. So perfect your buoyancy. It's all about positioning. Not only do you have weight in your weight pockets here, but put some weight in your trim pockets. Don't put it all there because it's not dumpable back there, but put, a third of it back there and 2/3 down here. So if you needed to, in an emergency, you could dump that. So I wanted to talk about this. And of course, if you haven't tried it before, take a tank that's down to like 600, 800 psi and try perfecting your buoyancy with that. And then you kind of know where you need to be. And if you're perfecting your buoyancy at your safety stop with that 500 or 600 psi or 800 psi, whatever it is, then at the beginning of the dive, yes, you're going to be slightly overweighted, but deflate completely, keep your feet down, go down. And I tell all the students and all the instructors that people should go down like a wet leaf or a snowflake. You shouldn't be bam down. Now, a bunch of the spearfisher people out there are going to contradict me. They want to get down. You really want to be able to control yourself. So if you need to stop because you or your buddies having equalizing issues, then what you want to make sure is that you can just kick easy to stop your descent. You don't want to have to inflate the BC to stop your descent. If you do, you're either using it wrong or you're overweighted. And a lot of times people will be down there and they'll be neutrally buoyant swimming around and they'll go into an upright position to swim up and they will inflate their BC. You shouldn't have to inflate your BC to swim up. You should be neutrally buoyant. And so as you move up, you hold up your deflator. Don't deflate. Just rest your finger on the deflate button. And as you swim up to your safety stop, and positioning is a whole nother video. But swim up, and as you are looking at your computer, that's why you got your hand. Here's your computer's here, not over here. So you're swimming up. Oh, I'm going into my safety stop countdown. You can just kick easy. Or if you're coming up and you feel yourself moving up without kicking, burp your BC a little bit. It works wonderfully. So perfect your buoyancy. It will give you much more control. And remember, control is everything in scuba diving. Controlling your descent, controlling your dive swimming, controlling your ascent, control on the surface. If you don't remember anything from this video, control. Control will always give you safety. And I try to put forward that if you're under control, it gives you great confidence. Things will happen slowly, because usually if something happens fast underwater, it's usually not good. So again, I'm Bob Collins for Diver Supply. Thanks for listening to my little pitch on talking about these fins and talking about booties and the BC and about buoyancy and weighting, that sort of thing. Again, appreciate the comments. Love the questions. I hope to keep seeing you. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Love for you to be one of our subscribers. Thanks a lot. See you again soon.